the nostalgia.
Then the song that was coming on next was Coldplay, and it just because the algorithm knew that style of music.
This soft, emotional.
Yeah, fix you. Okay, awesome. Welcome everyone to our last bonfire of your fellowship, bonfire number 10. We're going to be talking about tech and Web3 civic innovation. And who better than someone who is right at the forefront of Web3 and social innovation. In fact, if you Google those terms, the person who comes up is none other than our co-founder, Gary Shang. Gary, how are you doing tonight?
I'm awesome. Honored to be kind of capping this off. And, you know, just always excited to chat with you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think we have some really cool stuff for you tonight. Let's get it started. Gary's going to kick us off with the icebreaker.
All right, so what is one food that is overrated and one food that is underrated? Hot takes, spicy takes, super welcome.
I'm excited for these.
What is panoma?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is either.
Fries are probably overrated. They're the most marketed food ever. Over hot Cheetos. Wow.
I agree on
potato fries.
I like sweet
potato. I agree.
Yeah. Overrated sushi? No way. No way.
Ranch. Pineapple with pizza underrated. I can see that. Pancakes are overrated. Pancakes. American breakfast is just overall like so bad for you. Underrated ramen. I think so.
Wow.
Overrated banana.
Someone said avocados. I disagree. Avocados are not overrated. I think they're properly rated.
People are way more cultured than me. I don't know what a yakimeshi is.
Neither do I.
Tapanaki. Ice cream with fries.
Together?
What?
I've never heard of that combination. Wow.
Just trolling now.
Yeah.
Nick, what is something that's underrated?
Underrated. Fried dough. I said this to the team. Fried dough. What about you? What's underrated in your world?
Many things Trader Joe's, which is a supermarket. I think I've heard people make fun of the packaging and the naming of stuff, but it's just like the price is so good and the taste is so good.
Ooh,
broccoli. It's interesting how like we're almost like brainwashed to like not like broccoli when we were kids by like culture or something. I don't know, but broccoli's good.
I agree. Overrated cotton candy. That was my overrated.
Oh yeah. We did this icebreaker in a team meeting, and Nick said the cotton candy. It looks really good.
Yeah, definitely overrated. I don't think pizza's overrated. I see people saying that.
Daryl,
properly rated.
I said something similar to that. Ceviche, yes. All right, should we get to it?
Yeah, we'll move on. I know this is fascinating. We can do this all day. Thank you for that. It's definitely one of the best icebreakers. I think generates a lot of discussion. All right, let's get to tonight's lesson and our first case study. Our first case study is in tech civic innovation. It is a country. The country is Estonia. Estonia, if you don't know it, it is in Eastern Europe. There are 1.3 million people in Estonia. It's roughly the size of New Jersey in the United States. So pretty small country. It is a former Soviet republic, and it has been independent since 1991. Now, what's interesting about Estonia is it has a completely digital democracy, and it lets its citizens do all of the following online. First, and most importantly, you can exercise your right to vote online. You don't need to show up. You don't have to be in the country. If you're a citizen, you can be traveling and you can still cast your ballot. If you want to do it in person, you can do it in person too. And if you change your mind before the polls close, you can actually change your vote during the voting period. So really cool that you can vote online in Estonia. It's been that way since 2005. You can pay your taxes online. No paper taxes. Don't have to deal with that. You can register the birth of a child. And you can even register to drive and get a passport all online.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's only one thing you can't do online in Estonia, and that is get married. They think that that's something that should still be a special in-person experience. So if you want to get married in Estonia, you can't do it online. Doing this, going fully digital, has saved them 2% of their GDP in costs. That's a lot of money they saved. And it's been so much money that it's been enough to pay for their army. Their entire military budget comes from the savings that they've realized by going digital. Pretty cool. They've also heavily invested in tech education amongst their population so people know how to access this stuff. They've even declared internet access a human right. So every person in the country is ensured to have internet access. That's something that most countries can't say. And they've accomplished all of this because of one key factor: trust. People trust this digital system. And it's not because they trust the government, actually. People in Estonia trust this digital democracy because every citizen owns and controls their own data. It is not housed in some central government server. It's owned by them. There's no centralized place that all this data lies in. Instead, it's been on a blockchain. And they use this technology before blockchain became a buzzword in the last 5 to 6 years. So pretty cool. So it's therefore not trust in government that matters, because as we know, people usually don't trust the government to do a lot of things. And so the people in Estonia don't have to trust the government here. They just have to trust the underlying digital systems in order to access their government. So really cool stuff here. Gary, I know you're at the forefront of this stuff. What are your thoughts on Estonian digital democracy?
It's interesting because I just echo what you said. You know, we presented on Estonia like in 2020. I think that was the first time that we presented on Estonia, maybe. And I had no idea. I don't know if I knew that it was blockchain. It's funny because I think I read about their super modern democracy in some kind of book, and the book didn't emphasize blockchain much at all either. And that kind of, I think that speaks to the fact that, you know, when a cool technology that helps, or just a cool organization that is really effective at serving people, we don't explain every technology that they use to do it. It's just part of like the kind of technical stack. It's part of the product that has, you know, in some cases like hundreds of technologies that are contributing to its existence, including the internet, which itself is a bunch of different protocols that we don't need to, you know, we shouldn't have to list. We should just be able to focus on kind of the practical use cases, like thinking about how can we make it easy to get a passport, which very personal to me, because I'm very skeptical of whether I can get a passport in time for some travel I want to do.
There you go. You can click on this link here when you get the copy of the slides, and it will take you to an article that was published just 3 days ago on Estonia. So this stuff is super up to date. Let's move on to our first rapid response question for you. This is obviously not perfect. So what are some concerns you might have about Estonia's digital democracy that we just presented? DDoS attacks. Do you know what that stands for, Gary?
Something denial of service attacks, just like flooding the servers with just spammy, just like spam, basically to make it not able to be useful to the people who are using it for good reasons.
Yeah, so I think people are echoing that: hacking, data breach.
Yeah, hacking, data breach, privacy issues, a lot of things that truly have not been fully figured out by really smart people. Wi-Fi device access, yeah. I mean, if you need well, we don't actually know if you need, like, maybe you can go in person somewhere to do everything if you don't have a device, but Wi-Fi device access definitely is an issue, like equity around there.
Right. And so one of the criticisms also about replicating this in other places is that this is a country of 1.3 million, pretty homogeneous population, not a lot of diversity. Like to try to implement this at the scale of a larger country like the United States, over 300 million people, pretty diverse.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really, really hard to do that.
The government could sell their information even if the citizens trust them. So yeah, you gotta make it like either illegal or impossible to do that. And one of my favorite quotes, definitely didn't come up with this, is can't be evil is greater than don't be evil. So I'll type that out.
That's a good point. And for those of you that don't know, that was the motto, don't be evil, of Gary's former employer.
Yeah, so think about this way, like if you somehow, I don't know exactly how you do it, but if you design the system where you technically cannot sell, like the government couldn't sell your data to another party, we don't have to worry about how corrupt the government is. There's probably tons of caveats there, but so a lot of where that quote is applied is like with a lot of blockchains where people can't not be transparent because transparency is built in the blockchain, and transparency is actually a very big part of what a lack of transparency is a lot of what allows corruption to happen, a lot of under the table dealing. Does that make sense, Nick?
It does. It does. Fantastic. So thank you for all your responses. We're going to move on to another case study in tech civic innovation. And this is a kind of hyper-local example. This is from a small city in the state of Kentucky in the US called Louisville. If anyone's from Louisville, would love to have them chime in, but if they're not, no worries. I'm going to give you a little background on what Louisville is doing. So there have been a leader in what we sometimes call civ tech in the US, which is using tech to enable the engagement and participation of citizens in government and enhance their opportunities for participating in the economy. One of the things we didn't touch on with Estonia was a lot of access to help people participate in the economy, to improve their status. And Louisville has been a leader in this. They've launched a digital inclusion plan that could serve as a model for other cities. I've linked it here if you're interested in it. They launched it in 2019. So far, it has gotten off to an okay start. First thing the plan does is gives free tech literacy education to any person, any citizen who wants to earn a degree, find a job, or just better themselves. This is not highly advanced stuff. Just want to make that perfectly clear. They're not teaching people how to code. They're teaching people basic tech literacy in order for them to maybe improve their standing in life a little bit, to maybe just access the internet. It's not the same thing as reprogramming a blue collar worker and teaching them how to code, which has gotten a lot of criticism here in the US. Second, they've also launched what's called a gigabyte experience center that can be used for any events that require ultra fast internet, like a hackathon. So if you and some friends or a small company or a startup wanted to use this space, it's completely open to the public. It's almost like a digital library, which is pretty cool. And I think more cities might start using these. The space completely free, public can use it, but due to a lot of factors, including COVID happening, it has been underutilized, which hopefully that doesn't deter people from utilizing it in the future. Okay, having said that now, let's pose a question. What are some other tech innovations that cities could undertake to benefit their citizens? So based on what you just heard about Estonia, what you heard about what Louisville is doing, is there anything that's missing here? Any other innovations that cities could undertake?
That's a good question, Jiho. Do you know this, Nick?
No, it has not been.
Okay.
No, there have not been a peer-reviewed article demonstrating that this digital inclusion plan has made the impacts that it says it has. Correct.
Yeah. Electric vehicles, yeah, and all the infrastructure that would enable them to be beneficial to use, like charging stations. I would even say participatory budgeting is an innovation. Like it's like a social technology more than anything, or a civic technology more than anything, but it's very important. Digital wallet. Yes. There's a lot of resistance with Americans with digital wallets, for some good reasons, but they create so much convenience for sure. Like if you're able to just, instead of, for example, sending people checks in the mail for stimulus packages, the checks wouldn't get lost in the mail. They just go to your digital wallet.
Right. And they could get there a lot faster.
Yeah. Like universal basic income does not feel like it makes sense to me if it's a matter of checks.
I like this comment, strategies to make technology more accessible. I think that's what you're getting at. We do have a large population that's unbanked and doesn't have access to tech and getting like the most kind of basic, simple functions that a lot of us take for granted, accessible to everyone would be huge.
Yeah.
Public transport for free.
Yeah. I was having like a brainstorm session with this kind of longtime education innovator person, and he was asking me how, like, we were just talking about Web3 and the future of education. And I was just thinking about our experience with Civics Unplugged and how we've grown a lot, Nick. Like it's through building stuff, and also how a lot of our most active alumni of our fellowship, how they've grown the most, is through participatory experience building things that are meant to be impactful. And one idea that we're playing with was like, could there be something that's more like multi-valuable than empowering like kids in a neighborhood to manage a collective fund democratically to improve their community? Like what if that was kind of the default entry point for young people in Web3, and they don't even know that it's like Web3, right? They're just like, we get to in a fair, transparent way manage manage our collective future, more or less, right? And like democracy is such a abstract idea until you're able to kind of see it on a small fractal level. So like how do you encourage people to practice democracy, especially when they're under the age of 18, at least in America?
I like that. That is a good start. Speaking of Web3, we're gonna dive into to two more case studies that are more Web3 related. And this first one is called the Climate Collective, and it is powered by Cello. Gary knows more than me about this stuff, and so I'm gonna intro the material, and then he's gonna give you a little bit. He's gonna fill in the gaps a little bit here, and hopefully answer any questions you have as we go through. So, what the Climate Collective is, it's a coalition of companies that are building at the intersection of Web3 and climate change. And of course, we believe that working on climate change is a civic innovation. Now, these companies, this coalition, they support a range of products and protocols that promote what's known as regenerative finance ecosystem. The shortened term for that you might hear is ReFi. Their mission at the Climate Collective is to accelerate regenerative applications using Cello's carbon negative blockchain and mobile first infrastructure. Now, don't worry too much if you don't understand exactly what those terms mean. What is important is what they're doing and what their goal is. They're planning to use 40% of their reserves, so $340 million, to buy and own 135 million new trees in the rainforest. That's a massive amount of trees. Now those trees would sequester 43 megatons of CO2 per year, which would be close to 1% of the world's 2050 goal. That's pretty incredible that one organization, that one group of companies could contribute to sequestering 1% of the world's goal of carbon. That's pretty darn cool. Gary, is there anything you want to add to this to fill in the gaps about what they're doing at the Climate Collective and what Cello is doing?
Yeah, so I think Cello is, I'm not an expert in Cello, but I really trust a lot of people that are really bona fide climate experts that have really dove deep into Cello. I'm sure there's stuff to critique, but they really feel like they are truly committed to planetary regeneration, and it's almost like a blockchain that was like from the start engineered to be a tool for creating incentive structures to encourage people to do good for the planet, right? And there's like this, the collective is a whole suite of different products and protocols that Cello has given grants to and whatnot. Cello is kind of like at least like a third generation, if not fourth generation blockchain, where Bitcoin is like the first generation, and it doesn't do that much except allow for people to send Bitcoin to each other. Ethereum is second generation. It's kind of a very expensive sort of blockchain, it's kind of slow, but it kind of pioneered this idea that you can have this sort of planetary computer that no one owns, but kind of everyone owns, can own a piece of it. Then you can run arbitrary applications on it. But Cello's like way faster, less decentralized than Ethereum. But like I think, I know I'm saying a lot of different things, but as someone that's been really deep, getting increasingly deep in this space, the community around a technology matters so much because it shapes the future of the technology. And so you can have two blockchains that are very similar in terms of similar technical capabilities, but like you'll notice that very different applications are being built on it. And I think like when you're thinking about whether to kind of purchase it as a kind of investment or whether you want to build on top of it, the community is such a key, like maybe the most important factor on whether it makes sense to build on it, because the technology can always improve, especially if the community is in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of comments about people feeling a little bit lost and not understanding, and that's totally fine. This is not something that is going to be easily understood right away. The one thing I think we can answer, though, is what is the Climate Collective physically doing? They're physically buying up rainforest trees, planting them, 135 million of them exactly, to help with climate change. if that part alone, if you understand that part, you don't necessarily have to understand where they're getting that money from just yet. Like that's a whole other story. But the short version is a lot of money that they're using for good to help combat climate change. And their goal is to combat 1% of it by 2050, which is pretty cool if they can have that kind of impact. All right, so we are not going to spend too much time on this because I know it's the crypto side of things are kind of a little bit more advanced than what we're ready for. But what I do want to do is have Gary introduce our Dream DAO in case you are interested in learning more about this stuff. And it's okay if you haven't had much experience with it in the past. So Gary, please tell us about Dream DAO.
Yes, so little history. Even though my brother had been full-time in the crypto space, it wasn't really called. So there's debate about whether the crypto space is Web3 and if Web3 is broader than that or different than that. But let's just say it's kind of more or less just different names for the same thing. The crypto industry, my brother had been in it since 2017 full-time. And it's funny because it never occurred to me to ask whether there's kind of like special social impact use case for like crypto or Web3 beyond like donate crypto to a nonprofit, which is like it's that use case is still not it's not insignificant, but it is not at all the magical unlock of crypto. And we won't dive kind of super deep into any kind of technical things today, but I think one of the most important unlocks for humanity's future that's created by Web3 is DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. To put it simply, there's a lot of energy and talent and investment in thinking about the future of digital communities that can actually get things done over a sustained period of time. So I've been part of many collective action organizations that are digital first. And a lot of my advisors and friends, for example, people that helped create Occupy Wall Street, the fact that there was not many good tools to coordinate and collect funding across a distributed movement or community, however you want to call it, over an extended period of time. And there wasn't a lot of like art and science around just the concept of kind of coordinating and funding of movement at scale. This prevented a lot of like well-intended movements from working, right? And so as there's this emerging notion, right, that Web3 is like helping us actually start to invest in movement building, community building, digitally, digital first, and at scale. And that's not the only use case, but that's just one I want to touch on today. And what better way to kind of learn about how Web3 might be an unlock as it relates to community building, coordination, movement building, than actually empowering alumni of our fellowship to actually try to figure that out. So it's been this really fun experiment that we've been running since January. We've learned a lot. The Web3 community is really, like the broader Web3 community is really excited about this idea of people like you that are coming from like a civic mindset first, with honestly a lot of like healthy skepticism, just trying to figure out how to, like, while in a digital first community, learn how to use Web3 technologies like blockchain, NFTs, etc., to figure out how Web3 can be used to do good in the world. And that's a big open question. I think there's a lot of hype around how much good it can do. But I personally believe that in the coming years because of people like yourselves, or at least the ones that choose to be kind of at the experimental edge and choose to intern at Web3 organizations to push them forward, to be better, to do better. It's going to be Gen Z that is going to enable Web3 to realize its potential to do good, right? And again, it's kind of like so lofty, like, oh, like a Civics Unplugged, like sub community is going to push this like crazy industry forward. I actually think so. I genuinely think so. And I'm pretty blown away by the reception from the Web3 community. Some of these people that have literally been around since the start, since before Ethereum was invented in 2013. So I know we'll get to questions, but being a fellowship alumni enables you to apply and explore the stuff.
Exactly. Thank you. So if you have questions about the Dream DAO, if you have Web3 questions, put them in the Zoom Q&A, and we'll get to them. I want to make sure we before we answer those questions, we get to the announcements tonight, since this is our last bonfire and there's some important announcements about finishing the fellowship. So put those questions in the Zoom Q&A, and we'll answer them at the end. Okay, so reminder, your Civic Innovators portfolio is due. You'll notice that the due date has changed. It has been pushed back, and it's for a very good reason. It's because the International Working Group convinced me that they wanted more time to run a few workshops around this, and they thought it would be beneficial and create stronger case briefs. And I said, sure, I can't argue with that. So you have a little bit more time to get those case briefs done until April 24th. The details are all here. This is always in every set of slides, always in the syllabus as well. Next, we are going to talk about project proposals. We're excited to announce that the application for acceleration stipends of up to $1,000 are now open to you and your civic projects if you want to write a proposal. This is not required, not mandatory. If you do want to propose one, your project has to be nonpartisan, and it has to help us at CU achieve our mission of building a brighter future for humanity. We will only invest in projects that meet those two criteria. If you want your project to be considered for priority status, you must submit it by May 15th. So you have some time. The form is right here. It'll also be in tonight's slides, in tonight's recap email. Also, you can fill out this form underneath if you're looking for support, if you want somebody to talk to about your proposal. You're probably not going to be able to just fill out this proposal in one sitting. You're going to have to take some time to think about it. And there's instructions about how to help you do that there. Next, we're going to talk about steering committee elections. Arath, if you are out there, could you raise your hand and I'll bring you up and we can talk about that. Thank you. All right, while Arath is coming on, I'll let you know that steering committee elections are going to take place in late May, and we use ranked choice voting for the 5 available seats on there. Hey, Arath.
Hello everyone. Oh my god, this came from the learning together. I was supposed to take notes, so I'm going to do this quick before we start. Haha. So yeah, welcome everyone. So steering committee is in charge of overseeing the builder community. So after you graduate the fellowship, you're all invited. It's completely opt-in to join the builder community. It's a community of alumni. So basically, let me search the document. Sorry, I just had a script with what to say. Sorry, and I just lost it. But anyways, here it is. So what we do as steering is to meet weekly. We're going to have meetings weekly where we discuss with the CU team about what's going on with the builder community. What can we do? We also fund people. We also fund projects. Have you heard about funding proposals? So at the end of the fellowship, I think if you join the builder community, or can someone clarify me if the apps are open right now?
If what is open right now?
The product proposal forms.
Yep. Yeah, that's gonna be live tonight. So that will be open, and that is a big task of steering, is to decide which projects could get funding.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Yeah, so we will judge your projects and fund you up to $1,000 to.
Oh, did we lose you?
Unmute, Arath.
I think you're muted. Yeah.
You're muted.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my internet was acting nuts. So.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Nick, for the explanation. And yes, we will judge your project, and we fund you with $1,000 to start with your project or to continue with your project. So we also discuss community health and stuff. We also host events, one event per week, and we also solve problems related to the community. And well, it's a really fun experience, to be honest. You learn a lot. You learn teamwork. You learn to do other tasks, or you find what you like to do. For example, you could be linked with partnerships, you could be dedicated some roles, or you can be recommended through Unplug Strategies. Unplug Strategies is this how can we best explain Unplug Strategies, like this program Civic Unplug does to connect you with internships, and this is for builders. So we kindly recommend you joining the builder community so you don't miss these Unplug Strategies announcements happening every month. So yeah.
Great. No, this is perfect. Thank you for this message. You're going to hear a lot more about this as we get closer to the election. So just make sure to check your email, check Discord, and there will be lots of information about the actual mechanics of the election. We just wanted to give you a heads up that this will be happening in May. So thanks, Roth.
Thanks so much, Roth.
Should I?
I'll drop you down to attendee. There we go. Okay. Some other announcements. Graduation will be Saturday, April 16th at 9 a.m. Eastern. You'll notice this date is before your case briefs are due, and that's okay. You can still go to graduation and participate in graduation even if you haven't finished those case briefs. This will be in Discord as well, and there will be an email also. So you don't want to miss graduation. You might be wondering what happens after that. We're still going to have events after the fellowship ends in a number of different areas. So for instance, I'm going to be doing more Supreme Court sessions. I have one already scheduled for 2 Mondays from today because there's a big court case that day. There's going to be lots of other events happening. So it doesn't mean that your time at CU is over, even though the fellowship is technically ending. You want to make sure you're checking your email and checking the events tab in Discord to know when these events are happening. Quick reminder that Arizona State opportunity still exists. If you haven't applied for that and you're interested in this all expenses paid full week trip, please apply. I think so many of you would have a great time there. And finally, your final reminder about completing the fellowship. You got to do 2 things in order to complete the fellowship. First is submitting your case briefs, which we've talked about kind of ad nauseum, and they're always in the slides, always in the syllabus, all the instructions are there. And second is you have to complete a survey at the end. It's a post-fellowship survey that helps us measure what you have gotten out of this fellowship. Once you've done the case briefs and submitted the survey, you're going to get your certificate of completion for the fellowship. People are always asking me, do I get a certificate at the end of this fellowship? Yes, you do. But you only get it if you do your case briefs and you complete this post-fellowship survey. Those are the 2 things you need to do, and then you'll get emailed your completion certificate. This is going to be in the recap email tonight, so you'll always have it to look back onto. Finally, last thing, I promise, it's not required, but we would also love if you would nominate some of your friends for our next fellowship in the fall. Link is here. It's also going to be in the post Bonfire email. And with that, let's do some Q&A. Put your questions in the Zoom Q&A.
Can you see that I picked a question?
Yes. Yeah. What do we do?
Great.
Yeah.
All right, great. So, all right, let me. So let me just pull up. I have a breakdown. So right now, this idea of like how Web3 can be used to do good in the world is such a open question, and it's emerging. Like, and there's not like good textbooks on this. Actually, there's a book that a friend of our community who founded this like really respectable Web3 organization, he wrote a book actually with a member of the, well, with the support of people like me, and is actually writing another book on the idea of impact DAOs with a member of the Dream DAO, a young member of the Dream DAO, Ale. But overall, like it is an emerging open question where people are running lots of experiments at this intersection of Web3 and social impact, related to criminal justice, related to education, related to any sort of issue. You can find people to try to like figure out how to use this new revolutionary technology to do good. And so we bring in experts across all these different niche areas within Web3 and social impact to talk on average, like once and a half or twice a week, actually. We've been doing this since January. That's the kind of main core activity right now. We don't expect our community members, like basically the fellowship alumni, to do crazy projects yet. In fact, I think that was in some ways a mistake that we made, Nick, like with just the CU fellows with like non-blockchain projects, like this idea that we were pressuring people to just create projects, right? And I'm sure you know that there's a lot of pressure for like college to like have things on your resume, and like we don't want to put any pressure on your shoulders to do stuff just to do stuff. So right now there's a lot of learning, and then like starting in June, there's going to be a 2-month internship program where we're matching our community members with internships at respectable Web3 organizations that want to do more impact. After that, there are some ideas of what we'll do, but stuff is changing so much that it's pretty TBD. But we do want to provide funding for young people that want kind of financial stability to be able to explore this new space.
Thank you. I can do some of these quickly. I missed a Zoom meeting way back. Is it possible to go back and watch? Yes. So every Bonfire has been recorded. If you go to the syllabus, they're actually all there. All the slides are there as well. The syllabus gets sent out every week in the recap email that also has all the recordings. So you can search any of the Bonfire recap emails from me, and you'll find that information. The proposal has to be the same one that we were doing for our case brief. No, you can do a project proposal on anything. It does not have to be the same as your case brief. Your case brief is a great start, though. That's a great forcing function if you're looking for a proposal. And to be crystal clear, you do not have to propose a project. It's not a requirement of the fellowship. It's only if you want to, and if you have something that you think would benefit from support from CU. What were the requirements? Requirements are to submit your case briefs and to submit the post-fellowship survey. It'll be sent out tonight, so look out for the email recap from me. Hello, we're going to receive credits for watching the Bonfire videos and how to receive them to know how many credits I have. So every week in my recap email, I send the Bonfire recording and I send a link to a form that you need to fill out when you watch the recording. That's how you get credit for it. If you're interested in how many you've watched, just email me separately. How can we become a builder? By finishing the fellowship. All you have to do is finish the fellowship to become a builder. So case briefs, post-fellowship survey, you're a builder. Should our case idea be identical to our projects? Nope. Like I said, does not have to be the same thing. Will I be able to join another fellowship if I'm not able to complete this one? Yes, you definitely can. You could join the fall fellowship if you'd like. Gary, how/when to apply for DreamDAO?
We haven't solidified that yet, but probably early summer. Just we'll definitely email the fellowship alumni list in the time, so it won't be a surprise.
Great.
You'll have plenty of time to apply.
How does the DAO deal with internal leadership? If a DAO gets in legal trouble, who is accountable?
Nick. So our board is setting up an interesting, or just a helpful structure where like we're like individual people are not under risk of just doing normal mission oriented things. DAOs in general, why there's not too many like what we call impact DAOs right now is because there's not much regulatory guidance on that. There's not much legal guidance. There's you kind of have to interpret the existing old laws to figure out like what is like allowed and like how to file taxes and all these different things. But once there is more regulatory guidance, wherever you are, whether that's you're in the US or some other country, I think that DAOs are going to proliferate.
I've already submitted my case briefs, but I haven't received any confirmation email. I mean, if you're worried that it wasn't received, just email me and I can double check that for you. When you submit the form, though, you should receive a confirmation that the form was submitted. Again, how does one join DreamDAO?
An application will emerge soon, in the next like month and a half.
Could you talk a bit more about the future internships and how to apply?
Well, I guess either of us can answer that, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what we're the preferred method, to be honest, is that you apply to the internship that you want, and the CU team, like you let the CU team know that you apply to an internship after you've done it, and we can, like the leadership team or whoever, our leadership team can look at our networks and see if we know anyone at that organization. Chances are in the US, we probably do. We probably know someone that knows someone. And then we could be like, yo, Ariana was a great fellow, or contributed to the community a lot and would be a reliable intern or something like that, it's like nice because it doesn't take too much time on our part. We're always happy to do that kind of thing. But what we're a lot more reluctant to do is be like, is get a message from you, Ariana, and it's like, I want an internship in this area. I'm like, great. Like, you want us, like, it's like it would be very hard for us to just like match you with something if you didn't have a lot of impetus on your part.
Yeah, and as we're growing as an organization, we are actively in the process of cultivating relationships with other organizations we think might be good fits, but we haven't done that yet. Where we don't have a Rolodex of hundreds of organizations that are ready to take CU Fellowship alumni. Maybe one day we'll get there, but that's not the case. So I think Gary's advice is good. Let us know which ones you're applying for, and we'll try to help out any way we can. Can we present a project we've been working on before we joined the community? Yes, you definitely can. If you went to every Bonfire live, then you don't have to do the form. Correct. If you went to every Bonfire, when you attend a Bonfire live, your attendance automatically gets tracked, and we have that data. It's only if you watch the recording that we need you to fill out the recording form that's in the email. Can we do the brief portfolio in pairs? If that's right, do we have to do 2 case briefs or 4 per couple? No. So if you do them with a partner, you still just have to do 2 of them, the 2 of you. You don't have to do 4. DreamDAO sounds like a lot of work. How is it ensured that a member doesn't burn out? You're muted.
This is a great question, Arpita. It's funny, I was looking at this poll from a friend on Twitter, and I don't know if it's not a scientific study, but 50+% of the people that replied to that poll said that they're burning out. These are all like Web3 people. And I think I talk to people every day that need advice on figuring out what to do with their time with Web3. I think what Web3 does is and I know that's like kind of opening so many questions. What's Web3? Like, what's a typical day? Like, what you got to know is that like, the Web3 culture is like, you can ramp up as much as you want or as little as you want for whatever organization that you're contributing to. And you can contribute to like multiple organizations. That's the kind of culture. And it's really on you, primarily on you, to have the sort of self-regulation that like, I'm only going to dedicate like 1 hour a week to this thing. And because it is, we at Civic, at least like until that's not true, which unless the Dream DAO community decides that 1 hour a week is not enough, I doubt that. We are cool with very variable commitments, and like, let's say you show up to one learning together session a month, we'd probably be okay with you staying a member. Kind of conversely, if you wanted to really lean in and wanted to prove yourself for a kind of consistent recurring role with a lot of responsibility and potentially a decent amount of payment, we'd welcome that as well. But self-control, I mean, part of this is me giving my own advice, like self-control when there's so many opportunities that you can take is just so important to learn, and recognizing that sometimes doing a few things really well beats doing a bunch of things really poorly, and then burning yourself out and feeling guilty because you're not doing a good job, right? It becomes kind of this spiral effect where like burnout is kind of the easiest thing for people that are not super thoughtful about preventing burnout, ironically. Sorry, that was kind of long.
No worries. Two more, I'll wrap these up. So if we haven't started a project but have a complete vision for it, do we get funding to initiate it? So I'll say you should still apply if you have complete vision for a project. There's no guarantee that you'll get funding, but you should definitely still apply even if you haven't started it yet. That's totally fine. And then finally, is there a way to obtain further funding after this one-time grant? So in the history of Civics Unplugged in our long 3 years of existence, no one has applied for a second stipend, but that doesn't mean that it's out of the question. If your project is going well, you're growing, and you demonstrate need for more funding, I don't see why you couldn't apply again for more funding. All right.
So the thing I'll add there is that we haven't always done the best job of kind of realizing the potential. We have not done the best job of realizing the potential of a fellowship alumni managed community, or one that feels like it is. But I think like the answer is that you just got to convince your community that you deserve a second grant. Right. It's not about convincing Nick. It's about like, I think there's going to be organizations that the fellowship alumni community that rejects because they don't believe that they're ready for more funding, right? Or there's going to be ones that the community enthusiastically use more funding, and maybe there's a third round of funding after that if they keep hitting milestones, because we do want to have those kind of standout projects that make our whole community proud. Maybe the community has a lot of members within that organization, right? But overall, kind of, this is your community, and we have a whole kind of bunch of things that we're going to be doing in the coming months to make sure that it really feels like your community.
Fantastic. Okay, so if I could leave you with one thing before we sign off tonight, it's that this is not the end of your time at CU. It is just the end of this fellowship. Like Gary said, we want you all to be proud of this community. We want you to be working on projects that impact people outside of this community, but we want you to use this as a home base for you all to get that work done. So with that, we will sign off for now, but we will see you again on Zoom very shortly. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Nick, for having me. See you, everyone.
Bye.